All right, so today I'm going to show you how to create a graph of the residuals in Google Spreadsheets. To start, you need to make sure that you have the regression model, the linear regression model specifically. And so as you see here, I'm going to do this with the 11th grade test data, and the regression model, the linear regression model is y equals negative 6.339 times x plus 84.064. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this column here, and I'm going to go ahead and type in here predicted test score from linear. All right, if you wanted to wrap text, this button here wraps the text around. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to make it so that this cell has a formula in it that automatically calculates the predicted test score based on this equation. So essentially what I want is I want this, this cell here to go ahead and do the calculation for me. So the way that I do that is I'm going to type in the formula, except I'm just going to type in the equal sign. And that makes it so the cell is going to create a formula. So equals negative 6.399 times, and I wanted to multiply it times x, which is the number of days absent. So I'm going to go ahead and say times this value here, which is in the cell A5, and that's fine, plus 84.064. And I'm going to go ahead and press enter. So what happened is that cell did those calculations for me, kind of like a calculator. I'll go ahead and do this one more time. So this cell is going to equal negative 6.399 times the x value, which is the number of days a student is absent, plus 84.064. And as you can see, you get the same input because obviously, or the same output because the input is the same. A really cool trick is you can drag a formula down. So if you see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this little corner cell and I'm going to go ahead and just drag it down. And what it does, it puts the formula in each of these cells. But what you notice is that just this number is changing. And so instead of referencing cell A7, which is this cell here, the next one's going to reference cell A8. This one's going to reference cell A9. And so the next one down will reference the cell A10. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quick. I'm just going to drag it all the way down. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And there we have it. So those are all of the predicted test scores. So if someone is absent for 1 day, the linear regression model predicts that they will get a score of 77.6. If someone is absent for 4 days, they predict that someone will get a score of 58.46. So now that we have our predicted test scores, we're going to go ahead and calculate the residual. So I'll go ahead and calculate the residual in this column here. And the residual, as you remember, is residual equals the actual data point minus the predicted. So this cell is going to equal the actual test score, which in this case was 85, minus the predicted test score, which is 84.06. So we see the residual here is actually 0.9. I'll do that again. I'm going to have this cell be a formula, so equals the test score, which is this one here, minus the predicted test score. And so here the residual is negative 6.06, which means that this data point, right, was 6% lower than what the model would have predicted. Just like we did before, I can go ahead and I can just drag this formula down and it will do the residuals for all of those. Look at that. And so now we've calculated our residuals, and now we need to graph it. And so graphing it is a little bit different. So what we're going to do is we're going to select just the X values. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly select all of the X values. I'll go to Insert, Chart. Now that I've done that, as you notice, this is not, it doesn't even give me a scatter plot option, and that's because I only have X values selected. And so the way that we do that is right here, this is the data that we selected, and we need to add data to that. So see how when I hover over this, it says select data range. So I'm going to click on that. And this is the X values. I need to add another range. And this time it's going to be the residuals. So our X values and our residual, okay. And so now, chart types, we should see scatter plot be an option. Looks great. We'll do a quick customization. So I see that I have number of days absent. And so I need to change my scale here because I'm not going to be absent for 1.5 days. So maybe I'll just change the major lines. Let me just try 6. That looks a lot better. And then my left vertical axis, notice it doesn't have a label on it. I want to label it residuals. There it is. I'm pretty good with that scale. Maybe let me just see what it would look like if I had 8 lines. That's a little bit better. And so I'll go ahead and leave it as that. Insert. Also notice my title says histogram of days absent. That's not what I want. I want this to be residuals of days absent versus test score. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to drag it somewhere where it's a little bit more out of the way. Oops. And that is it. That is how you calculate residuals using a Google spreadsheet and create